Hey everybody, this is Josh Runquist for the 25th episode of the Heavy Debriefings podcast. I am the suicidally depressed every winter Josh Runquist, along with
Metal Faerie.
And yeah, I think you could kind of tell by what I just said that I'm going through my own living hell right now.
Yes.
Anyone that's checked out my personal Facebook knows that I went into really deep detail about my 5th attempt, which, if you're checking this out today, is the 10-year anniversary.
Yeah.
Of my closest attempt to no longer be here anymore, so it's really hurting. And of course, with the winter that we've had, it's been so nice and green and in the 50s during Christmas.
I know.
And today, after the show, I really wanted to get out of the studio because I've been trapped here for almost 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, we decided to get some snow for New Year's Eve, so there goes that plan. But what's it like putting up with me during this time of year? How are you doing?
I mean, obviously I've been with you for over 10 years now, so I know this is a hard time of year for you, so I anticipate that it's gonna be a rough patch, but I just try to kind of surround you with as much positivity as I can, I try to anyways. I mean, I know I go through my issues too, and, now is no exception to that, but yeah, I mean, I just, I'm trying to be there for you as much as I can, and, I know there's no cure that I can bestow upon you. I wish I could, but I just want to be here for you as much as I can, of course.
So how has the past week been for you? Like, post-Christmas, pre-New Year's? How has it been feeling for you?
I feel like Christmas didn't really feel like Christmas this year.
Not at all, no.
It doesn't really feel like the end of the year now either. It just kind of feels like this off period. And so I'm just kind of in like a weird place mentally and everywhere,
Yeah, and I'm even looking at the clock right now. Take away the editing. We're 14 minutes away.
Yes.
And in 12 hours, it'll be New Year's.
What?
It'll be 2024, which I imagine to be one of the worst years that we've been through for so many different reasons, personally and around the world. But until then, we're going to try to give you a darn good show.
Yes.
Boy, howdy.
I mean, 2023 was rough, but here's hoping that 2024 isn't as rough.
Or like that meme that I showed you from The Last of Us with Frank as 2023. 2024 is not going to be that bad, is it? And then it just goes to Bill, who's just sobbing and crying his eyes out.
Oh, let's hope that's not.
Well, and speaking of things to really close out the year, we got some high spots and some low spots going on here.
We do.
What would you like to start with?
Let's start with a little news. One kind of, I think it's a good thing anyways, is that Jeff Loomis has quit Arch Enemy.
Yeah, I've noticed that once this got announced, Jeff Loomis is like your best friend that left a bad relationship.
Yes!
And it's just like, you can do so much better.
Girl, yes!
Yeah, that was the smartest thing you ever could have done, was leave.
You poor thing. How were you in there for so long?
Money.
Yes.
Arch Enemy still makes money.
Yeah,
and
that is
that
true.
is exactly why he was a part of it.
Absolutely.
And I'm sure he made some friendships and stuff in the band and stuff like that too. But I can't imagine that he was like musically satisfied playing Arch Enemy.
I can't imagine. I mean, maybe at first it got another little like side of him out there, but it just doesn't feel like that's really him.
Well, what do you think Jeff Loomis would be in 2024? What would be him, as you just said?
I mean, I definitely feel like something more on the progressive side, a little power as well in there,
So Nevermore.
Nevermore, yes. Thank you.
A little progressive, a little power, a little thrash. So you just want him to be in Nevermore again.
I want Nevermore again.
I've seen a lot of people talking about that. Like, he needs to get back together with Van Williams and reform some kind of Nevermore, even if it's just like a sequel band to Nevermore.
Yeah.
But I've seen 2 possible names popping up all the time, and I would like to get your thoughts on this.
Okay.
First one, Snowy Shaw.
Okay.
Could you see him doing that?
Maybe. I mean, he's a character. I feel like he can do a lot of different things, so.
He can hit those falsettos like Worrell could.
He can. I would be curious to see that.
And the other one, kind of in a different direction, Dino Jelistic, the singer who was on the Michael Romero album from last year, but he's a part of so many other bands.
Okay.
Of course, he is the keyboardist and back singer in Whitesnake.
Yeah.
And he's done a lot. He put out a solo album this year. He's done a whole bunch of different stuff.
Okay. Yeah, I really loved him on the Michael Romero album, so I'd be up for hearing that. I would definitely be up for hearing that.
I also realized Michael Romeo. My apologies.
Yes. I thought it sounded a little off as I was saying it. I'm like, Michael, how'd I like that album?
I mean, he's not really a falsetto guy. I mean, he's got a dirtier, grittier voice.
Well, and that's fine. I mean, you can do something progressive and power without having those falsettos. I mean, I love those falsettos, don't get me wrong. It doesn't need to be a complete, like, clone, though, of Nevermore. It could be its new, kind of darker sister.
Well, that's what I was going to be getting at as well, too. Like, it wouldn't exactly be Nevermore, but I think there could be a lot of things that could be done with that.
Yeah, definitely. I'm excited to see what he does, though.
Well, anyone who knows me knows that Nevermore is one of my favorite bands of all time.
Yes.
And whether it's like a sequel band to Nevermore, whether you reform Nevermore in some points, I mean, Sanctuary's still going for some reason.
Yeah.
I mean, if you could do that, I think you could reform Nevermore of some kind, and I would love to see it happen.
Yeah, or just inspiration from it. Anything.
Yeah.
Any drop of inspiration from Nevermore.
Well, that's what I mean by like a sequel band to Nevermore.
Exactly.
You know, it's just like, Van Williams, I mean, the only thing he's really got going on right now is Ashes of Aries.
Which isn't much.
No, I mean, especially with Matt Barlow and his brother-in-law and stuff. If you know, you know.
You know.
But I want to see it happen.
Yeah.
But anyways, now we got some wrestling news. Do you want to go with the good stuff or the bad stuff?
You know, let's just dive into the bad stuff first.
All right. We're going to be talking about this later in the show as well.
Some wrestling, yes. Yeah.
But there's some bad stuff that kind of came out right before AEW Worlds End yesterday.
Yeah, so there's been some rumors speculating about one Christopher Jericho, essentially alluding to the fact that he has made some passes, shall we say. The details are unclear on former members of the AEW women roster, and it was not welcomed, and there's still a lot of details missing and stuff, but it's been painted a picture that he's done some shady things, and NDAs were signed so that it can be talked about.
Yeah, I have heard a little bit deeper about stuff.
Yeah.
It might include some current people on the roster as well.
Oh, okay.
There's so much I do want to say about this, but there is a huge part of this that needs to be discussed when we get into the wrestling news.
Yeah.
I'll just say I wouldn't be surprised if any of this happens because it kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
If he did do it though, he needs to be fired.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard because there's so few details that we've heard now, and if you weren't there and if you don't know the details, what do we know?
Exactly.
But if there is anything truth to it, then
well, the one name that constantly keeps coming up that was a part of AEW for like a couple weeks before leaving.
Yeah.
It would make a lot of sense why they left.
Yeah, it is true.
But on the opposite side.
Yes, on the opposite side of wrestling, some positive news. Hiroshi Tanahashi is the new president of New Japan Pro Wrestling.
Which I never saw coming. Apparently there's been a big press release that came out like a week or two ago. And there's been like a big shift in a lot of the staff of New Japan. And of course the biggest one being Hiroshi Tanahashi, one of the greatest wrestlers to ever come out of New Japan Pro Wrestling, is now the president of New Japan. What do you think about this?
I'm excited, but I do have a little bit more with this. So he is replacing two people, Takami Obari and Mikiaki Nishizawa, and apparently...
Good pronunciation.
Thank you. I try. Yeah. The rumor is that, especially with Obari, apparently he had a lot of issues with a lot of people backstage, just not really knowing how to run a wrestling business. He kind of used his power a little too much, and he had some major issues with Okada. So Okada really wanted him out, so I think that's a big part that played into this.
I also think that's why Okada's going to be staying now in New Japan.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Because there was like all this big talk that Okada's going to be exploring his options in 2024, but I think with this major shakeup in the backstage of New Japan, I think he's found his home until he retires.
Absolutely. And as far as like Wrestle Kingdom, that's coming up next week now.
And I haven't heard about one single friggin' match.
I hadn't either. I do have the match here, or the lineup here.
Yes, the one match of wrestling.
But it looks like, at least for this, Tanahashi is still wrestling for this, but I don't know what his wrestling future will be after that, since he is now obviously taking on the role of president, so.
I can imagine him still doing part-time stuff.
Yeah, that is definitely possible. But I'm excited for that. I mean, he's an amazing wrestler, and I think, obviously he's well respected amongst his peers there, and he knows his stuff.
Well, since you were looking this up, did you hear anything about Rocky Romero? Because he was a booker in New Japan.
He was.
And again, Wrestle Kingdom is in just a couple days. Yet he was on World's End last night. You know, he's not getting ready for Wrestle Kingdom. He's in AEW right now. What is going on here?
Yeah, I didn't see anything about him in this article, and I don't see him on the lineup either. So I don't know. Maybe we have to dig in further with that one. Or if anybody knows who's listening, let us know.
Yeah, I would love to know, because it's very, very confusing to me that a lead booker of New Japan is not over there right now working on the show.
Yeah, that's strange.
All right, so I've mentioned it in the past few shows, and I'll mention it here again. With this being the final episode of 2023, some big changes are coming in 2024 to the podcast. Mainly, it's just kind of aesthetic kind of things. We're going to be doing an intro and outro, trying to make things that sound as proper as possible and sound like one of those real professional podcasts. Well, as much as we can make it out to be anyways.
Yes.
But I also wanted to introduce some new segments to the show, you know, try to change things around. And as much as I love doing the musical roulette and 3 random songs, it kind of felt like it was running its course.
Yeah.
Where I wanted to do something that involves you in a major way.
Yes.
Because whenever I tell you to check out a band, you always say you're going to,
Yeah.
and then you never do.
That's true.
So, in this brand new segment, we are calling it
Accountability 101.
Yes, where you are actually going to be held accountable for the actions that you've said over the past 10 years. Instead of lying to me or simply forgetting, or just beneficially to you forgetting, so it's like we never have to talk about it again. This is accountability for you, and to actually check out the stuff that you say that you're going to check out.
Okay.
Now, I was going to save this for 2024.
Yeah.
But we just inadvertently decided to make the pilot segments of this.
Yeah.
Because it just happened naturally.
Yeah.
With the game I'll be talking about later for stuff that we've been enjoying, I just inadvertently put on the whole discography from Polkadot Cadaver.
You did.
Which is the side project / main band of Dog Fashion Disco.
Yes.
Whereas Dog Fashion Disco focuses a whole lot more on horror aspects. The album Adultery I always like to refer to as Alfred Hitchcock metal, because it's got a whole bunch of like brass, woodwinds, jazz elements like you'd kind of find in an Alfred Hitchcock movie, but modernized enough.
Yeah.
Polkadot Cadaver still has the horror, but it's a little more modern, it's a little more electronic in points, sometimes more metal. I mean, it kind of varies, but a lot of the same people from Dog Fashion Disco, well, actually now, with their current lineup, it's all the members of Dog Fashion Disco also doing Polkadot Cadaver as well.
Which one came first?
Dog Fashion Disco.
Okay.
They came out in the 90s. When that got put to bed after the album Adultery, then came Polkadot Cadaver about a year later, and then they brought back Dog Fashion Disco, and they've been, it's like they'll do one album, then they'll do the other album. They'll do one album, then the other album.
Yeah.
And, of course, you've already checked out Dog Fashion Disco.
Yes.
And it's not a band, like I've mentioned before, going off of the name, this is not a band you would ever check out on your own.
Oh, no. Heavens, no.
Yeah, because, it's just that kind of name where it kind of sounds hipstery.
It does.
Yeah, it just sounds like, oh, look at me, we're not taking this seriously at all.
Yeah.
But when you listen to the music, and the instrumentation normally would not be your bag either when it's filled with saxophone and trumpets and clarinets and stuff like that, but you actually enjoy them.
Yeah. I mean, I would say for both bands, like, if the material wasn't about, like, horror-related things and stuff like that, it probably wouldn't be my cup of tea, because it would be a little too hipster for me. But adding in that horror element,
Yes, but going in with that, with Dog Fashion Disco, again, Polkadot Cadaver, it's a little more electronic and stuff like that. So, having checked out all 5 albums inadvertently just a couple days ago,
yes.
What was your impression of Polkadot Cadaver?
I like it. I will always stand by Chloroform Girl as my favorite song from them.
Yeah. Is that true of Dog Fashion Disco as well? Like, is it your favorite of everything, or is it just a Polkadot Cadaver?
It depends on my mood. Like, I feel like Dog Fashion Disco is a little bit darker, whereas Polkadot Cadaver is a little bit lighter and even more hippery. It reminds me of the movie, what was it, Meat, that we saw a year or two ago, where they were eating human meat.
Fresh,
that was it. It's like the perfect soundtrack for Fresh, I feel feel like. Just kind of that hipster, like, human-eating monster, you know? So I would say, it very much depends on my mood, I think, which one I would go for. Like, again, Dog Fashion Disco, it kind of gets a little bit deeper and, like, kind of, I don't know, just kind of a little bit more darker and kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, you're trying to solve a case, kind of sleuthy, kind of like...
Oh, yeah, it's like a Private Eye kind of thing.
Yeah,
it's like a noir kind of thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Whereas Polkadot Cadaver is just kind of dancing around, talking about crazy stuff that you shouldn't be singing about.
Well, I mean, the name of their debut album is Purgatory Dance Party.
Yeah, well, that's fitting then. But I thoroughly enjoyed it.
And of course, that is the album that features Chloroform Girl.
The best song.
Which sounds like the Beatles. Like, it sounds like a 60s almost acoustic rock.
Yes.
With the most demented lyrics.
Yes.
Which is what makes it work.
Yeah. Like, being a horror lover, I mean, they're just like after my heart with their lyrics, you know?
Mm-hmm. And you still need that coffee mug where it takes a line from the chorus. You're only alive because I like you.
That is perfect. I should get one for you too.
So,
here, sweetie, I made your hot cocoa.
So, with that in mind, would you check them out on your own time?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I've included Chloroform Girl in some of the setlist playlists I've made in the past and stuff.
Well, I mean a little more deeper than that.
Yeah,
I mean, obviously the one song, of course, but I mean, like, would you, like, go back, listen to the album, see if there's anything that, like, sticks out to you more?
Yeah, I mean, for people who haven't listened before, and I don't know how much I've talked about this, I'm not a huge, like, album listener, unlike you. You're definitely an album guy.
Oh, yeah.
I'm more of a, you know, I put things on random and kind of go from there. But I mean, I would definitely like throw some of their albums along with some other albums and stuff in a big playlist and shoot on random.
Well, that's more or less what I meant.
Yeah,
like, I mean,
absolutely.
you can like go through it and like pick some songs out for a playlist or something.
Absolutely.
Because, you know, not everybody's me where you enjoy every song off of an album.
Exactly.
If I like the album, I usually enjoy all the songs off the album.
Yeah.
So I understand that completely. Mm-hmm. And I imagine that's the same with obviously we didn't hear all the Dog Fashion Disco albums, although you have over time.
Yes.
You've heard all of them. But would you do that for them as well?
Oh, absolutely.
Well, I'm very glad to hear that. And yeah, I think class is finished here for Accountability 101. For this week.
The pilot episode.
Yes. Next week, we're going to be going in a little bit of a different territory.
Okay.
I'm going to do something that's a bit easier on you than instead of 5 albums.
Okay.
It is 2 albums.
Okay.
Next week, I want you to check out the albums from the band Times of Grace, which is the band featuring Jesse Leach and Adam D of Killswitch Engage.
Okay.
It is their side project.
Okay.
The first album was created when Jesse was not in the band.
Okay.
But it was a little bit right before he rejoined.
Yeah.
And then 10 years later,
yeah,
they made a second album where Jesse was also in the band as well. And I would love to get your feelings behind what Times of Grace is like compared to Killswitch in your humblest of opinions.
Okay, I'm excited for this one.
All right. Well, I have so many bands that I want her to check out that actually hold her accountable for all of this. But if there's any bands that you want her to check out, leave some comments down below about some potential bands. She might not check all of it and she might turn some of it off right away, but hey, she still might give it a shot.
No Vandergraaf generator.
Well, I'm not saying we're going to choose every single one,
I know.
But
I just had to throw that one out there.
You know, if it tickles the fancy and if I want to see if she'll enjoy it or suffer, you know, maybe we'll throw it into Accountability 101.
So up next, we are going to be talking about our top movies of the year. But before we get into this, we had one big miss from last week when we talked about our top television of the year.
Yes. I can't believe we forgot about this because we love the show so much.
I know. We missed Twisted Metal.
Yes. The show where if you see the trailer, you think it's going to suck. And you think it's going to suck hard. And we went into it thinking it was going to suck.
Yeah, we were ready to just MST it.
Yes. But it turned out to be one of the best shows of 2023.
It was so good.
I apologize for anyone that was expecting Twisted Metal to show up on there.
Yes.
It was well worth it, and it is well worthy of the season 2.
Absolutely.
And I'm excited for that because it's actually going to be the game now. Mm-hmm. The first season was like a preamble.
A lot of the build-up.
Yeah, you get to know some of the characters. Mm-hmm. You start to understand things a little bit more.
You start to care.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And now the leader from Party of 5 is now creating the Twisted Metal tournament.
Oh,
I can't imagine that there could even be a third season, depending on how they do things, because, you know, like, the whole idea of Twisted Metal is to kill your opponents.
Yeah.
So, you know, this could be a really short form kind of thing.
It could be. It could be.
But I think it's going to be absolutely amazing.
Absolutely. I'm so excited for it.
Yes. And now the other form of visuals that we've enjoyed this year that's not gaming.
Yes.
Film.
So we...
No, let me say, before we get into all of this, we checked out a lot of movies this year.
We did.
I mean, it wasn't until we started going over every movie that we've seen this year.
Yeah.
I realized how many movies we saw and how many movies we went to go see at the movie theater.
Yeah.
Which is no longer going to be a thing considering the prices got jacked up on everything.
They are going up. Oof.
Yeah, in December, the local movie theaters by us jacked up their prices, so we might be going sparingly on going to the theater. We still might see them. Yeah. We just might wait the 6 weeks until it's on streaming.
Exactly.
But how did we go about this?
So we each created our top 10 list. So what my thought is we'll go through that. I do have some honorable mentions as well. And then at the end, I was thinking we could loop back on some of the really bad ones too if we want to just like crap on them.
Oh, yeah. Well, you know, since, you know, we're going from the bottom, now we're here, why don't we start with your honorable mentions since you have more than 10?
Well, I kind of wanted to save those because I don't want you to know what's on my top 10 yet.
Okay.
Well, it could ruin the suspense of what my top 10 is.
Not necessarily. I mean, how many movies did we see this year? Like, it was like 20-some, wasn't it?
I mean, quite a few.
Yeah.
But
so that doesn't necessarily give anything away.
I don't know. I just figured we'd go through our top 10 first.
All right. Well, you're going first then.
Okay. I will go first then.
Well, if it isn't evident from past episodes that we've done, the Metal Faerie is a gigantic horror fan.
Yes.
And that was the genre that we've seen most.
Yeah.
I mean, easily, like, when we look at the list, it's so much of it, like, over half of it is horror.
Yeah.
So, it can't really shock me that much about what your top 10 is, because, you know, I was there.
Well, I'm not a shock, but I didn't want to be like, okay, these are all my honorable mentions. Okay, this is all that's left for my top 10, you know?
All right, since you're putting the hit of the hissies a part of this, I'll go first. Does that make things better if I go first?
Oh, that's fine. I just didn't want to do my honorable mentions first.
All right, fine. I'll go first.
Okay.
We'll build you up to the main important one for number one, since
I can do first.
Being the horror aficionado, it's okay.
With my top 10, I had no issue going first.
It's okay.
Okay.
It's okay.
Okay.
Number
You
10.
doing?
Number 10. Number 10. Don't you love the way we bicker? Number 10. I went with Totally Killer.
Okay.
I love the fact that it's basically Back to the Future, but going back to the 80s, and it's a slasher horror.
Yeah.
At the same time. Mm-hmm. The only person in the entire movie I'm familiar with was the trainer from Night at the Roxbury. So you can see where my references come from. Yeah, so
yes.
the trainer of the Butabi brothers being the father of the movie.
Yes.
So, you know, it's like I really don't have any like attachment to any of the other characters. I know the lead was in Sabrina, the Teenage Witch, the remake show.
The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina.
Yeah, well, remake of the Archie comics is what I was getting at. You know the whole dark universe that they've apparently.
Yes.
Because when you read the Archie comics, you just think it's not dark enough. But anyways, I love the time travel aspect. I love how they perfectly make fun of today's stuff and the 80s stuff at the same time. I just thought it was a really funny movie, not one that you needed to take seriously.
Yeah.
You could just kick back and relax and enjoy it for what it was.
Yeah.
And it was an unexpected surprise for me how much I actually enjoyed it, because I was kind of iffy on it going into it, but I wanted to go see it with you.
Yeah.
And I'm glad we watched it, and yeah, I enjoyed it.
Yeah. So my number 10 is The Exorcist Believer. I love The Exorcist world. Not all the movies are the best, but the original obviously is amazing. This one I thought was really great. Like it's in that world, but it's totally its own new updated thing. It's not as much about religion anymore. It's more about, you know, testing people to see whether they're good people just in general. And
social commentary.
Yeah. And of course the Reagan and her mother from the original Exorcist did make appearances in this film, but it wasn't done in like a cliche, like overdone kind of a way. It was in a very natural way that just added that little touch to it to kind of reminisce back to the original Exorcist. And I just thought it was really done really well.
Where would you compare it to the rest of the Exorcist movie catalog?
The original is still number 1, but I would put it after that, I think.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, after the original, I felt like they kind of fell off, though.
You were so wrong.
Okay.
Again, I need my little corner flag that says Pazuzu
Yes.
on there.
He wanted to have a little like sports flag when we went to the theater, and his little hat and everything.
Yes. For me, it's 3, 1, Believer 2.
Okay.
2 is undoubtedly one of the worst horror movies ever made. And I know it has its defenders, but
Yeah.
no.
Yeah, I understand.
My number 9 is Infinity Pool.
All right.
The first X-rated movie we ever saw in theaters together.
Yes.
Which I was not expecting. This is a weird movie.
Yeah.
It features one of your many boyfriends, Alexander Skarsgård.
Yes.
The new Queen of Horror, Mia Goth. It all takes place on this resort on this island, and some shenanigans happen. Then some other shenanigans happen, and it basically turns into a body horror movie.
Yeah.
And where does body horror rank for you for like the styles of horror? You know, the Cronenberg movies like The Fly and other ones like that.
Not as high as other ones, but it depends. You know, there's exceptions, of course, but it's not as high as some of the other genres, I would say.
That makes sense. I get that.
Yeah.
I thoroughly enjoyed it. I thought it was a great look at economical class warfare of the poor, or even just the moderately rich compared to the super rich, and everything that comes with that and what they're capable of doing and how they're able to maintain who they are. I don't want to give anything away in case you've never seen it and you want to check it out, but again, it's the son of David Cronenberg in one of his first horror movies, directing this, and the Cronenberg body horror legacy continues on.
Yeah.
And if you like Absgard, or if you like Mia Goth from Pearl and X and other movies that she's been a part of,
Yes.
I think this is a dangerously underrated movie, and one of the only movies I've seen this year that featured breastfeeding.
That is true. That is true. My number 9 is Evil Dead Rise.
Ooh.
So I know a lot of people hated this one, but I loved it. I mean, again, it's in that Evil Dead world. It has that Evil Dead feel to it, but it's fully its own movie. And again, I think there's a lot of like family issues that it brings up and a lot of underlying kind of themes and stuff, but it's still done really well in like a very modern way. And I thoroughly enjoyable.
Right on. My number 8 is the Super Mario Brothers movie.
All right.
Now, I was really scared going into this because
Yeah.
I grew up watching the original Mario Brothers movie, which is an absolute travesty of a movie. It has nothing to do with the game whatsoever.
No.
For some reason, it takes place in New York. I mean, you got John Leguizamo as Luigi for some reason. You have Dennis Hopper as Bowser, who doesn't even look like Bowser. He's just got like a couple little like horn kind of things, kind of like he's some kind of reptile, but he's not Bowser.
Yeah.
There's so many things wrong with it, and I know it has a cult following now.
Yeah.
But I think it's like The Room, where you appreciate it for how bad it is.
It's so bad. Yeah.
Yeah, not because of how actually good it is.
No.
But this is completely 3D animated, and I thought it was magnificently done. I love the way that they incorporated pretty much all of the Mario adjacent franchises a part of Mario Brothers, be it Mario Kart, be it Super Smash Brothers, be it Donkey Kong.
Yeah.
I'll be one of the few people to actually say I thought the voice cast was great.
I agree. I agree.
I know there's a lot of problems with Chris Pratt, and I'm gonna have to defend him later on this list as well. But the problems with that, I get, but I still enjoyed the movie overall.
Yeah.
I know Toad's your favorite, and he's ridiculously cute
So
in this
cute.
movie.
So cute.
And they built itself up for like a movie franchise, and the way they tease everything after the credits just has me excited because there's one particular character that didn't show up in the movie.
Yes.
That is going to be hatching in the next movie.
Yes.
Which that should give it away right there. I apologize, but it's almost a year old now. You've had your chance.
You've had your chance.
But yeah, it wasn't a movie meant to make you think.
Yeah.
It wasn't a movie to make you cry or anything. It's just enjoying the history, new and old, of the Mario Brothers.
Yeah.
And it just worked, man.
Absolutely. My number 8 is Infinity Pool. So, I mean, you touched on most of it, but I just really love how it touched on how the socioeconomic status of people, especially in the like kind of world they were in, but like in our society as well, totally dictates what people can get away with.
Yes.
Like, it's just ridiculous. And
again and again and again.
It just makes you think. It makes you that's what I'll add onto that one. But it's a really cool movie.
Very weird.
Very weird.
But very enjoyable.
Yes.
All right. My number 7 is Renfield.
Okay.
Renfield. Renfield. I need blood. First of all, it's the role Nick Cage was born to play. He was born to play Dracula.
Yes.
Ever since he created Vampire's Kiss back in the late 80s, he should have been playing Dracula, and he finally got to do it. But he didn't play it straight. He kind of played it straight, but he also played it like Nick Cage.
Yes.
Which I really appreciated. He did the Nick Cageisms on here. Now, this is another movie where if you watch the trailer, you really don't know what to make of the movie, because is it like this teenage rom-com or early 20s rom-com? Is it like, millennials and vampires and stuff like this?
Right.
Like, you really didn't know what to think of it. No, going into this is a hard R movie.
Yes.
There's bodies exploding. There's vampires bursting. There's so much blood and gore in this thing. It really takes the pee out of so many things that you know about the Dracula story. And the fact that they made it about Renfield is crazy to me.
Yeah.
Because he's such a side character in the real Dracula story.
Yeah.
You know, along with another Dracula movie that came out this year. I don't know if it made your list.
Right.
You know, it's just like, this was the year of doing like the really side stuff of the Dracula universe. And they modernized it, made it full of blood and gore, and just made it absolutely hilarious. It bombed so hard in theaters that there will never ever be a sequel.
Yeah.
But if you saw it or if you stream it, I think it's on Peacock.
Yeah.
It is so worth it. It's just an hour and a half of popcorn comedy fun.
Nice. My number 7 is Guardians of the Galaxy, Volume 3, of course. Rocket. You get to see little baby Rocket in his like growing up and like what happened with him, and it just breaks your heart. And he's so adorable, and oh gosh, it just tugs at your heartstrings. But it's such a good movie too overall. I mean, I think it's just so well done, and all the Guardians of the Galaxy movies are great, I think, but this one just really hit you in the heart, I feel like, so it's hard not to love it.
Interesting. My number 6 is Evil Dead Rise.
Okay.
Yeah. Going into this, I was wondering the whole time, like, how does this fit into the original Evil Dead story?
Yeah.
Is it a sequel to the remake? Is Bruce Campbell going to be a part of it? I didn't understand really any of it going into it outside of what I saw from the trailers. And I didn't want to look into it because I didn't want the movie ruined for me, which, you know, it's just like, if I have an intrigue for it, I want to go see it and I want to know nothing else about it.
Yeah.
That's just me. I know other people are different. Once I realized that this had nothing to do with Ash, that this had nothing to do with the remake in 2013, 2014, and it was just its own story in the Necronomicon universe, I enjoyed it so very, very much.
Yeah.
Broken Family? Check. You know, a horror movie in a gigantic apartment building, skyscraper kind of thing? Check. Horror cliches? Check. Bruce Campbell playing a priest on a vinyl record? Checkmate. Where he's he's doing the Necronomicon stuff. You don't know that unless you look at credits and you see that he's listed as doing that. But yeah, it's a different take on the Evil Dead stuff. The Deadites are, of course, there. And the Evil Dead is my favorite horror franchise of all time. At least with the first 3 movies. And I thought this was a worthy movie of being in the universe. I know, a lot of people thought this sucked. And a lot of people thought it was like an abomination to the original trilogy. But to me, I think it was just something else that happens in the same universe.
Exactly.
And sometimes that is all you need.
It's true.
And did they cash in on the Evil Dead IP? Sure. But I still enjoy it.
Yeah. My number 6 is Talk to Me.
Talk to me.
Talk to Me. I remember coming out of this movie and we talked about how unbearable all the characters were.
Yes.
And they are.
All of them.
And they are.
Every single one of them.
But I felt like number 1, the premise was very interesting of this. But number 2, it did such an interesting interesting job just touching on what loss and the trauma of loss can do to a person, and just the desperation that you feel when you lose somebody so important to you, to the point where if you can make somebody that unbearable relatable, you're doing something right. So it was done well, and like it just had that deeper meaning that I really look for. So
yeah, and of course for me, what do I take from it? Kind of like with Smile. If you have mental health issues, they'll never go away, and it'll bring you to your grave.
Yeah, there was some down points like that too, but it was a lot of deep meanings.
Who would have thought that was created by two YouTubers?
Yeah, right.
Like no one who's been in Hollywood before, and they were able to come up with a story like this.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That is pretty cool. My number 5 is Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3.
All right.
One of my favorite superhero movies now. I've seen a lot of backlash towards this lately. I think it's because it was James Gunn's last Marvel movie before he went DC, and I think a lot of nerds are burned by that.
Yeah.
Which, F off.
Yes.
The story of Rocket is so incredibly friggin' heartbreaking. All of his friends that he lost along the way.
Yes.
Everything that goes into that. But there's more to it than that.
Oh, yeah.
It's like saving the universe from high evolutionary. The going to another planet that is basically just like Earth.
Yeah.
Adam Warlock, which I don't even know if they're going to be using him anymore in the MCU and stuff, but he was such an important, integral part to the Guardians of the Galaxy story.
Yeah.
And if you see the end, he's still part of it without giving it away. But I think, I would love to see something more with that. And of course, there's Sean Gunn as well. He had his biggest role in all 3 movies. Now, is he going to be a part of the DC universe? And what is he going to play?
Yeah, that's a good question.
I mean, he's just got to ask his brother for help. But
Exactly.
But no, just like it was funny, it was thrilling, it makes you cry.
It does.
And it just wraps up the Guardians of the Galaxy story perfectly in my eyes.
Absolutely.
And last good Marvel movie?
Yeah.
At least until things change?
Yeah. No question. Oh, my number 5 is Sisu.
Ooh.
It's just...
I didn't think this would be in your top 10.
I know, but it's like 95% action, just over the top, crazy World War II. Yeah, in World War II, like just nuts stuff going on, bloody, crazy. And then it's like 5% saving a pup.
A very cute pup.
I know. How can you not love it? And it's killing Nazis.
Yes. It's a Finnish man killing Nazis.
Yes. I mean, what more do you want in life?
And it's funny, we went to go see that movie after, the county came in and checked on me. And you kind of just threw it out there. I guess we're going to go see a movie tonight.
Yeah.
When they asked if we were doing anything tonight. And then we just decided to go see this.
Yes.
This was a movie I wanted to see for a while.
Yeah.
And wouldn't you know it, it's my number 4, so I can continue talking about this. This is what I love in action movies.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's over the top. The kills are insane and so bloody, so messy, so gory, but so satisfying as well.
And smart.
Yeah. Like, this rugged Finnish man has just been through everything to hell and back, and he still has the wherewithal to be able to kill all these soldiers in so many different ways, is able to think on the turn of a dime, and just is able to be basically the World War II John Wick, from what I understand.
Yeah.
Because even though I haven't seen the movies, I know they took a lot of inspiration from the John Wick series, particularly the fact that he barely talks.
Yes.
A little bit of a spoiler, he doesn't talk until the very end, where he just has 2 sentences. And they're the most satisfying 2 sentences in the entire film.
Yes.
But it is an absolutely fantastic movie, and if you are okay with hearing a Finnish-speaking movie, I know they recorded in Finnish and in English.
Yeah.
If you're okay with those kind of movies, and, we are, because I can't imagine that this is the last foreign movie that's going to be on our list.
No.
This is just a really fun, underrated movie.
Yes. I agree. My number 4 is Renfield. World.
Oh, you had it higher than me.
I did. Kind of like you said earlier, like it's another take on Dracula that you don't really ever hear much about, you know? So that was interesting. And it's just a fun movie. I mean, Nick Cage showing me he's Nick Cage and he's always enjoyable. Even his terrible movies are enjoyable.
Because of Nick Cage.
Because of Nick Cage. It's just so over the top and crazy and just hilarious. It's a good time.
Yeah. And, Robert Kirkman, the creator of Invincible and The Walking Dead, was the executive producer on this movie.
Yeah.
Which you would never expect.
No.
But it works so perfectly. And even though I despise what they did with The Walking Dead, I still need to watch season 2 of Invincible, which I know I'll never get you to see because it is a superhero cartoon.
Yeah.
But it is a bloody good time.
Yeah.
And it has J.K. Simmons, which I think is
That is
why
true.
you should check it out.
I do love J.K. Simmons.
Maybe at some point.
Maybe.
But, I like the fact that he ventured in the movies. And even if it was a bomb, it was a fun bomb.
Exactly.
All right. My number 3 is The Iron Claw.
All right.
The top 3 could pretty much be mixed into any order for me.
I understand.
But I went with The Iron Claw at number 3 because of all the things that they left out. Chris Von Erich, they basically just combined 2 tragic stories into one character.
Yep.
As you pointed out when we left, the whole Kerry Von Erich, the fact that he had his own family, and they just made it seem like he was just like living at his dad's house the whole time.
Yep.
When that was not the case.
Nope.
There were some problems with it, but everything that worked was astounding. I loved so much of this movie, and I love reliving the old days of WCCW.
Yes.
I love how they incorporated great wrestlers like Ric Flair and Harley Race, and like real wrestlers a part of it. They didn't fake it.
Yeah.
And they talked about the NWA as well too, even though that turned into a tragedy thanks to Billy Corgan. And watching that review of their Sam Hain pay-per-view, we would have been one of only 200 people to buy that pay-per-view if we would have done it, but you weren't around that weekend.
Yes.
Yeah, just but no, there's so many moments that make you smile, there's so many moments that make you laugh, and there's so many moments that just rip your heart and soul out and throw them in the garbage.
Yeah.
There's so many heartbreak moments on here. Of course, it does end on a happy-ish note, or at least as well as it could after everything that does happen in the real story.
Yeah.
It's great to see that the Von Erich family didn't completely die without giving everything away.
Yeah.
But in some of the AEW presentations of the Von Erich stuff, just kind of left.
Yeah.
Let's just say I'm glad Christian Cage wasn't a part of all the other promotions. But overall, A24 knocked it out of the park once again.
My number 3 is also the Iron Claw. Pretty much for the same reasons you said. Like, maybe if I wasn't a wrestling fan going into this, then it could have been higher. But being a wrestling fan, knowing the history, knowing everything, like, it left out some things that just, I don't think they should have been left out. It's not like they were like, things completely pivotal to some of the points of the movie and stuff, but still the stuff that, like, why did you leave that out? It could have very easily been there. And like,
why did you leave out Chris Von Erich, who was a part of the tragic part of the family?
Exactly.
Why did you combine him into 2 characters?
Yeah, that makes no sense. Like, I don't understand cutting things like that. And in a way, I felt like a few things were kind of rushed too. So,
well, there was a lot of cuts to the movie.
Yeah, and I don't know. I don't get it. But besides that, it was a great movie though. It was, like you said, it touched on every emotion, and it, for that old time wrestling fan, it definitely kind of gives you those remembrances and stuff. So yeah,
totally makes sense. Numero dos, Gojira -1.
Okay.
Yeah, this might be my favorite Godzilla movie.
Yeah.
And I don't say that lightly.
Yeah.
I grew up with the rubber suit Godzilla, where it was just on a little soundstage and little toy buildings it was smashing, and you could see all the strings and everything a part of it.
Baby Godzilla.
Just like all the terrible, terrible villain creatures that were a part of it as well, too. Of course, Hollywood has tried multiple times to Americanize all this.
Yes.
The incredibly horrible late 90s Godzilla, where he takes over New York somehow, getting from Japan to New York.
That makes sense.
Yeah, it totally totally makes sense. And of course, in 2016, they rebooted the whole thing, and they're combining Godzilla and King Kong together.
Yes.
Which, actually not bad. They've actually been doing really good. And
they've been good.
I've seen so much poo-poo on the new movie that's coming out, and especially with the baby King Kong.
Oh, okay.
They think that, it's just for merchandising purposes because people are going to want to buy that. And
Well, I mean, yes, but shut up.
this is Godzilla reanimated. It's basically a retelling of the original Godzilla story, but it changes so many things up. It takes place in World War II. It could be a standalone movie, but they also set things up to where there could be a sequel.
Yeah.
It's about this kamikaze pilot who doesn't go through with his duties in World War II. If you don't know what that is, just Google it. And it's about all of the PTSD and trauma that he's faced in that time.
Yeah.
Also being taking care of a surrogate family, trying to build himself up, trying to make money from World War II things and everything that goes along with that, and how the United States was there, but really not there helping them, even though they said that they were going to help. All wrapped around Godzilla coming in and destroying the cities of Japan.
Yeah.
This is the first movie in the Godzilla franchise that I can think of where you care about the humans.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, all the other ones, like, it's fine. It's set dressing, you know? It's like, you gotta build things up. There's gotta be a reason why Godzilla's doing his things.
Yeah.
This felt like two movies meshed together so very well. A post-World War II trauma romance.
Yeah.
And a monster movie at the same time.
Exactly.
And the fact that Godzilla got a redesign, he looked absolutely terrifying. He was actually pink for gamma radiation, which is naturally pink.
Yes.
Try telling that Twitter or anything else on social media who thought they were trying to make him LGBTQ plus friendly.
Oh dear.
Oh god, that is a rabbit hole you don't want to go down, and I wish I hadn't.
Yes.
But you know, pink is or gamma radiation is naturally pink. That's why he turned that color.
Yeah.
So he was the most deadly he ever was, because gamma radiation is the most dangerous of all of them. And just absolutely insane movie, especially for the fact that it was made for like $12 million.
Yeah.
It puts like Hollywood movies to shame how it looks. The fact that they were able to do all that with such little money, especially in today's age, to create a movie like that. And there's other movie studios that spend near $1 billion who can't even make it look as good as that.
Yeah.
It's a heart-wrenching tale. Again, it's one of those that you laugh, you cry, you feel. You're so excited to see Godzilla. You're afraid of Godzilla. You just want to see what's next.
Yeah.
It's just a fantastic.
Yeah. Nice. My number 2 is Last Voyage of the Demeter.
Ooh.
Kind of along the same lines of Renfield. It's another Dracula, the untold story type of thing. It's one that you don't really hear about often. In this case, though, it wasn't funny like Renfield. It was way darker.
It was a legitimate horror movie.
Yeah, it's a legitimate horror movie, and
it's all about just one tiny chapter in the Dracula story.
Yep.
From his voyage from Transylvania to London.
Yes.
Something they barely cover in the book, but they made a whole feature-length movie about it.
And they did an amazing job. Like, they had legitimate fear, like, with people and stuff. You could see, like, the fear on the people, and, like, I don't know. I just thought it was really, really interesting seeing this perspective, and it was really good.
And Dracula looks scary.
Yes.
For the first time in such a long time.
Yeah, even, like, at the end when you see him, like, in a restaurant or a bar or something like that, like, it's not this, like, put together, like, suave Dracula.
It's not Gary Oldman from the Francis Ford Coppola Dracula.
No. It's a monster.
And that's another movie that bombed ridiculously hard.
Yeah.
That we both really enjoyed. It did not make my top 10.
Yeah.
But I thoroughly enjoyed it. And
Yeah.
I wish more people would have went to go see it. I can see why a lot of people were turned off by the ending.
Yeah.
Because they kind of took some liberties with the Dracula story,
Yeah.
let's say.
Yeah.
Don't want to go into it deeper without ruining it in case
Right.
someone goes and checks it out. But I mean, you kind of mention it. It's like, obviously Dracula makes it to London, and the story will continue if I can't imagine they're going to make a sequel, but the story will go on.
Yes.
But they added something else that a lot of people, it feels kind of wrong.
Yeah.
But whatever.
Yeah.
But I still thoroughly enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I am very, very curious to see what your number 1 will be.
Yes.
But my number 1
Yes.
is Beau is Afraid.
I knew it was gonna be.
How could it not be? First of all, it's an A24 film.
Yeah.
It's an Ari Aster film. It has Joaquin Phoenix doing one of his best roles ever. And it's about a man my age and a little older. I mean, it seems like late 30s, early 40s, maybe 40s to 50s. It's kind of hard to grasp.
Yeah.
But a man that can't get over his past.
Yeah.
With all of the trauma that he dealt with his mom in particular, and other things that go along with it.
Yeah.
And along with that comes a 3-hour dark black comedy that gets so dark, so creepy, but so funny at the same time. Like, it's a horror movie, it's a black comedy, it's a mental health movie, it's so many different things. The first movie that we went to go see at Alamo, right?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, this just has everything that I'm looking for. It probably is my favorite Ari Aster movie. I just loved everything about it. The ending is absolutely tore me apart. And again, just another one of those movies, like, if you deal with mental health, you'll never get better. Which seems to be the sentiment in Hollywood lately for so many movies that we see. Once it creeps up on you, it's there till you die. But it is 3 hours. It is the Lord of the Rings of Ari Aster movies. But I think it's worth watching at least once.
Yeah.
Although I think people need to see it twice to be able to pick up on everything. Like all of his movies. Like in Hereditary, if you watch it again, you pick up on stuff that you didn't see before.
Yeah.
Especially Midsommar.
Oh, yeah.
If you watch that again and again, you pick up little pieces that you hadn't before.
Absolutely.
Beau is Afraid is no exception. And my movie of 2023.
Very nice. My number one is Godzilla -1. Yeah.
I'm happy about that, but I'm also sad that Beau is Afraid did not make her top 10.
We'll get into that later.
All right.
But no, I mean, you hit on most of it. Like, it was done so well. Like, Godzilla was actually scary, and they for such a small budget, they did such an amazing job portraying him, and during the daylight, nonetheless, where you could actually see what was going on.
Yes, I forgot to bring that up.
Yeah.
To any hardcore Godzilla fans like me, of the Kaiju series, Godzilla fights during the day in sunlight.
Yes.
There's only one fight that happens at night, and it's the very first one.
Yes.
All the others happen in the daytime.
Yes.
That is something to behold. Because every Hollywood movie makes him in the darkest of night, and it's raining. This is in the day.
Yes.
Damn it, that is such an important thing. Go on.
Oh, but yes, I mean, it has everything right from the action perspective, but then it ties in this amazing tale of, like, actually caring about people and what, like, live in a country that's going through war.
Well, post-war.
But I mean, there's still a lot going on. I went to war with Godzilla.
Well, yeah.
And, you know, having love, but I won't go into too much detail with that.
Don't give it away.
But there's just so much. There's so much, and it's done beautifully.
And the mental health struggles that he's going through
absolutely,
as well, too.
Absolutely,
like, yeah, it just has everything. My favorite foreign film of the year.
Absolutely.
So, what do you think? Did we make some good choices? Did we leave out some movies? Why didn't we put Barbie on here? I don't know. But before we wrap things up and you tell us what we should have seen, the Metal Faerie has a couple of honorable mentions.
I do have some honorable mentions, and then I thought we could just kind of dive into some of the real bad movies we saw too.
Yeah, we can do that.
Okay, so good ones I saw. So a couple I saw without you. I saw the movie Missing on Netflix. So I think if you watch the trailer, you're like, oh, it's just some kid like all on social media, and it's like very social media like engraved, shall we say. But like it really shows how, like, you know, with where we have come with social media, it can be used to a person's advantage so much. Without giving too much away, this girl, her mom goes missing, and she uses all the social aspects that are available today to find her.
Yeah, I really didn't want to see that.
Yeah, I understand. Another one I saw without you was The Strays. Not to be confused with the animated dog film that came out recently, but
well, that's Stray Dogs, wasn't it? Or
I thought it was Strays.
Oh, was it just Strays?
I think it's just Strays.
Okay. So 2 movies called Strays this year.
Yes. This one, I think this was on Netflix as well. It's an English movie. This really just touches a lot about, well, socioeconomic status, but like racial stuff as well. And it's very interesting. It's very interesting. I don't want to give anything away though. Outside of that, I will say Subspecies 5, Blood Rise. We went and saw this at Alamo as well. I love the Subspecies movies, and I mean, this wasn't like the best movie ever, but it was just really cool to see that movie continue in this day and age.
I may have seen the original, but I remember nothing of it.
Yeah.
And this movie is a prequel to the whole series.
Yes.
So now that I saw the prequel, I could actually go and check out the rest of it because everything will make much more sense now.
Exactly. One that you had mentioned, Super Mario Brothers. My My one gripe though is that Daisy is always underrepresented. She's never in anything.
She could be in the sequel.
Better be. I will.
That's what kept it out of the top 10 is that Daisy wasn't in there.
No. It was probably my number 11, I would say. But that was just my gripe about it though.
Okay.
There were some other Nick Cage movies. Dream Scenario. That one was obviously very, very interesting, and I thought that was really good.
How are you feeling about that now after seeing it? Because you said you needed some time to think about it a little more.
Yeah. I feel like the trailer was a little misleading. There was way more. It felt like there was going to be a lot more Nick Cage-isms in there, and there was some. I mean, there was some for sure, but I don't know. It just felt like it was going to be way more over the top and kind of crazy, but it was way more mellow of a movie than I thought it was going to be, and I didn't like the ending either.
We're gonna definitely disagree on the ending.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, it's kind of like Pig from last year, where it kind of seemed like he was going to be going a whole lot more crazy, and he does a little bit, but it is more mellow.
Yeah. He also had Retirement Plan out this year, which was just a good old action Nick Cage movie.
Yeah, it's like watching The Rock or Con Air, but it's Nick Cage in retirement age.
Exactly.
And who knew it? Burnsville resident Ernie Hudson.
Exactly, right?
Yeah, where we live, we didn't realize Ernie Hudson is a fellow resident here.
Who knew? And then finally he had Sympathy for the Devil, which was a terrible movie, but it's Nick Cage.
It sucked.
But it's still Nick Cage, so if you want a Nick Cage movie, go for it.
Well, you can't go wrong with a Nick Cage movie if you like Nick Cage.
It's true. Also Totally Killer, what you mentioned, for all the reasons you mentioned.
I'm surprised that did not make your top 10.
I know. And Thanksgiving as well was
that was another
one. I know. So those were my honorable mentions.
Ouch.
There were some bad movies we saw though. Blood and Honey.
Yeah, that was the first movie I believe we saw this year.
Yes.
That or Infinity Pool. I can't remember which one was first.
Yeah.
I want to say Infinity Pool, but terrible movie, and I can't believe it's getting a sequel.
Yes. It was pretty bad. Death Metal. I mean, there was things enjoyable about it, but it was a pretty crummy movie.
It seemed like it was made by people who only kind of know metal.
Yeah.
Like, there's some jokes in there where it's like, haha, that's what people think about metal. Kind of jokes in there.
Yes.
Which, But horror movie, you can tell by the name Death Metal, and knowing it's a horror movie, I think he put two and two together.
Yes. Slaughterhouse. I mean, it was enjoyable in like a really bad, let's make fun of this way, but that's it.
If Chucky or Megan was a sloth.
Yeah. Knock at the Cabin. I know you hated this one. I didn't hate it as much as you. I friggin' hated it. But it wasn't the best.
I will say Batista was great in it. Batista is a great actor.
Yeah.
I just hate M. Night Shyamalan movies.
Yep.
There isn't a single one I like.
Yeah. And that's really it. I mean, there were some other kind of mid ones that we saw.
Mid?
Like Priscilla was, Five Nights at Freddy's. But yeah, I got.
You left out my number one.
What was afraid? Oh, yes. So, my apologies.
Yeah.
So this is one that there were parts of it that I loved. He's cracking his knuckles, everybody. There were parts of it that I loved and where I totally saw like the mental health stuff come through and like that touched me a lot. But then from an overall perspective though, it's still really hard for me to make sense of it. So maybe it's something that I have to watch many, many times, like you said.
Well, I think that's the case with all of his movies.
Yeah, but this one more than others.
Yeah. It's also a 3-hour movie.
Oh, I understand.
I understand that you're not going to be able to hold everyone's interest for all of that all the time.
Yeah. But I mean, I will say like this one is also a little more all over the place. Whereas like Hereditary, Midsummer, those are two of my favorite movies. Like, even though there's things that you catch on second and third watches and stuff, like you still know what the movie is about when you come out of it. Whereas this one is a lot more in depth and all over the place and artsy and kind of traveling all over the place.
It's just weird because I felt like I got it, but maybe it's because I've been through it that I got it more.
I mean, yeah, we all have different traumas, so.
Yeah, so. Not that I wish anyone to have the kind of traumas I and Joaquin Phoenix have.
Yes.
Yeah, and Beau is Afraid, but.
Exactly.
I think you understand it a little bit more if you have.
Yeah. Again, there were parts of it that I love, but just from an overall perspective, it hasn't clicked for me.
That breaks my heart.
I know.
You never said any of that until now.
Yeah, I did.
No, you not.
I said that I didn't quite understand a lot of it.
Yeah, but then we talked about it on the ride home, and I thought you were understanding it a little bit more, and then we never talked about it again because we weren't doing the podcast then.
Yeah.
So now I'm hearing all this for the first time, and it just, when I hear something like you despise Steven Wilson, even the Porcupine Tree stuff, just just kind of tears me up inside.
Sorry.
It's tearing up my heart when I'm with
Tearing
you.
up my heart when I'm with you.
Stop. Don't want to get sued.
Okay. Fine.
All right.
Sorry, JT.
In Sync featuring Justin Timberlake, like on the
Right.
Trolls 3 soundtrack.
That's right.
But anyways, that's our top films of 2023. Did we make some good choices, bad choices, somewhere in between? What did we miss out on? Is there any movies from our top 10s that you would recommend to people? Are there movies that made the top 10 that you enjoyed? Any of these things. Just let us know what you thought in the comments down below.
So up next in our continuing love-hate relationship with wrestling and AEW,
And potentially final.
and potentially final excursion with AEW, we decided to watch AEW Worlds Collide last
Worlds
night.
End.
Worlds End. My apologies. Worlds End last night.
Worlds Collide is Power Man 5000.
Oh, my apologies.
This is what it's like. Worlds Collide.
I remember that was on what skateboarding.
It was on Tony Hawk
Yes, that was it.
2.
Yeah.
But they made their debut in Beverly Hills 90210
Yes.
for 2 episodes.
Yes, Donna and her whatchamacallit, jukebox
Yes.
in the Peach Pit.
Yes. And they were
Yes.
doing a photo shoot and
Yes.
wow, who would have thought that would have went there?
Oh boy.
But yes, Worlds Collide.
Yes. So we watched it last night. So
Or
starting
World's End. See what you made me do?
I know.
World's End.
So on the pre-show, the buy-in, first up.
Nope, 0 hour.
Oh, 0 hour. My apologies.
See how
I am all
professional
over
we
the
are?
place. I am all over the place today.
Maybe I should have led the charge with
Because
this
none
one.
of this matters.
Well, we'll explain at the end how we pretty much have given up.
Yes.
But yes, in 0 hour, the
In
first of
0.
3 matches.
Yes, so first up we had Willow Nightingale defeating Chris Stanlander by a rough pinfall.
Yeah, it was pretty horrible. And if you were a fan of Botchamania like we are,
Yes.
you will be seeing this in the next episode of Botchamania.
Yes.
You missed it.
I did.
But you're gonna laugh at how bad this was.
I'm sure I will.
Yeah, there's this whole thing going on with the former Malcolm Bivens, and of course, who I know best as Stokely Hathaway.
Yes.
Is trying to manage Chris Statlander because apparently he sees something in her and no one else, just her.
Yeah.
And then really trying to break up her and Willow Nightingale, who have had a couple tag team matches together.
Yes.
And there was a couple shenanigans that involved him as well too, but overall it was a clean win. There was no dirty antics or anything, just a really terrible ending.
Yes.
And a match that was pretty much meaningless as well too, because it didn't continue the story.
No.
It didn't do anything. It was just a women's match just to have a women's match.
Yeah, just so they could be like, oh look, we had 3 women's matches.
Yeah.
But no storylines. Up next they had a 20-man battle royal for a future AEW TNT championship match.
And boy, is that going to come into play later.
Right? Killswitch, formerly known as Luchasaurus, won by eliminating Trent Beretta.
Yes, it came down to 4.
Yes.
There was Killswitch, there was Trent, there was Danhausen, and there was... Do you remember who the 4th one was?
I am forgetting now.
Yeah, was it Lance? Yeah, I think it was Lance Archer.
Yeah.
I thought Lance was gonna win. You
Yeah.
thought Danhausen was gonna win.
Yeah.
But then, once we got near the end, it instantly clicked with us.
Like, of course Killswitch is gonna win.
Yeah, why did we not put that together?
Him and Christabel, their relationship together, and Christian having the title at the time, like, what?
Christian Cage. Yeah, it just made sense.
So we should have known that one, but we didn't.
And, it's funny, like, even after, like, Killswitch was supposed to just, like, lay down and take the pin when that match was eventually going to happen where he would face Christian Cage.
Yeah.
He was just going to lay down, maybe do the finger poke of doom to reference WCW, where
Yes.
just go like that, fall over,
Yes.
1, 2, 3.
Exactly. Oh, but yes. Up next, the final match in the buy-in, the 0 hour, was Hook defeating Wheeler Yuta by submission for the FTW Championship, which means absolutely nothing.
It means nothing. It's just Taz's belt.
Yes.
It didn't mean anything in ECW.
Nope.
It didn't mean anything in any other organization he was a part of. I think TNA had it, if I remember correctly. It doesn't mean anything in AEW.
No.
It is a meaningless belt.
Yes.
There's no real rules behind. It's basically no disqualification.
Yes.
That's all it is.
Yep.
It's a hardcore title if you want to look at it that way, if you follow FTW rules, which is no different than a no-holds-barred match, which is no different than, a parking lot brawl, which is no different from anything else that they call the same gimmick matches. But the match was 90% Wheeler Yuta beating the crap out of Hook.
Yes.
And then in the last 30 seconds, Hook put in his dad's finishing submission move, and it was over.
Yes.
It meant nothing.
Nothing at all. Nothing at all.
And I swear they're only doing this because either they think Hook can't talk on the mic, or Hook can't talk on the mic.
Yeah, exactly.
But he does like getting strippers' butts in his faces, as we've seen from social media videos.
He does.
Now, for the actual pay-per-view itself.
Yes, so up first we had an 8-man tag team match where the Blackpool Combat Club with Claudio and Bryan Danielson, along with Mark Briscoe and Daniel Garcia, defeated Brody King, Jay White, Jay Lethal, and Roosh by pinfall.
I like that you never tried to say Claudio's last name.
Castagnoli.
Yeah, you always just say Claudio. You never say his last name. Surprisingly, with all this, Daniel Garcia got the pin.
Yes.
And unsurprisingly, like I said, Jay White was the one who was going to be taking that pin.
Of course he did. Who else would?
Which also I should bring up, in the first half hour of 0 Hour, Jay Lethal's tag team partner Jeff Jarrett was giving his insight into the matches for some reason.
Yes.
I don't know why.
I don't either.
This was basically just a consolation prize to everyone that was a part of the Continental Classic. Like, hey, you're all the losers except for Swerve.
Exactly.
Being this 8-man tag.
Here, you get to be on the pay-per-view too. It was meaningless.
It was meaningless. Yes. But it was supposed to be fun. It's just a fun match. Metal Faerie.
Well, yeah, but it wasn't. That's the thing. Up next, Miro defeated Andrade El Idolo with CJ by submission in what is probably Andrade's last match with AEW.
Yes, we'll be talking about that after we get done talking about the pay-per-view matches. But this was one of the stronger matches of the night, and that is an incredibly low bar.
Yes, it is.
Because there was not much for me to really enjoy.
Yeah.
And again, we'll be getting into all of that later.
Yeah.
We're not the only ones that feel that way, thankfully.
No. Yeah.
But, just Miro's great.
Yeah. I mean,
and I don't understand why they're not pushing him right.
Yeah.
Like, he's battling God, but he's on God's side. He's battling his wife, but now his wife's on his side. Like, it's this whole holy crusade thing that makes no sense whatsoever.
No.
And basically what happens here is CJ Perry is the valet for Andrade.
Yes.
Her first ever client in AEW. She betrays Andrade.
Yes.
And he loses the match.
A shocking turn of events.
Not that shocking because tomorrow night he'll be on Raw, probably. Probably working with Zelina Vega again, and then in probably 6 months or so, Malachi Black will be Aleister Black once again. And,
probably. But yeah, match-wise, I mean, like you said, this was probably one of the stronger ones match-wise, but that's a very low bar, and CJ was so annoying during it that it just didn't matter.
Oh, yeah.
And then up next, we had, for the AEW World Championship, Timeless Tony
Women's
Storm.
World Championship.
Yes, my apologies. Timeless Tony Storm defeated Riho by pinfall.
With the help of Luther, who actually got kicked out of the match.
Yes.
You knew Tony Storm was going to win.
Yeah.
Like, for some reason, she is a sensation. I think it's for everyone who's never seen Goldust before.
Apparently.
Like, the whole generation after me who never dealt with Goldust whatsoever.
Yeah.
Is finally, oh, I've never seen anything like this before. She's referencing old movies. She's doing old-timey stuff. And, like, it's never been done before.
Oof.
Yes, it has.
Yeah.
But, funny, and speaking of Goldust, he shows up later. And, but for this match, it was just pointless.
Yes.
And Rio's just going right back to Japan, going right back to Stardom.
Yeah.
So what was the point in this?
Right? And I missed most of this one, but...
Yes, you did.
I'm okay with that. And then up next, we had Swerve Strickland with Nana by his side, doing the dance, defeating Dustin Rhodes by pinfall.
Now, this was supposed to be Keith Lee.
Yes.
Versus Swerve. In a match that we never got.
Nope.
Because every time this match is supposed to happen, Keith Lee has been dealing with injuries.
Yes.
Apparently, he's been dealing with COVID for so long, and the after effects with that, it's affecting the rest of his body.
Okay.
And most likely has shortened his career significantly.
Ugh.
Like, he almost died from COVID.
Yeah.
Which I'm amazed he didn't.
Yeah.
Because, like, my dad died from COVID
Right.
and heart failure, and that was the kind of stuff he was going through. And that's what Bray Wyatt went through.
Oh.
But I digress. Dustin Rhodes just stepped in, made it seem like it was his retirement match or something.
Yeah, it was weird.
It was a weird friggin' match.
Yeah.
It was a match that felt like it was just made on the spot, because it basically was.
Yes.
And just absolutely, utterly meaningless. It was basically
Completely.
just done so Prince Nana could come out and do the dance.
Yes. Yeah. Like, I feel like they could have found somebody other than Dustin Rhodes. Like,
Maybe he was the only one available on such short notice.
I guess, but I don't know. Something else should have been done. I feel like it was like you said, completely meaningless.
I don't think Dustin was the problem. I just felt like they had no direction in the match.
Well, yeah, that too.
I mean, that was my problem with it. I don't have a problem with him in wrestling at all. It's just...
Well, I don't have a problem with him in wrestling, but with this match, like, there was no place for him. Like, he tag teamed with him before, like, so.
Naturally limitless, Len. Don't you act like you're above that tag team.
Well, I am. Moving onward. So we had an 8-man tag team match next with Les Sex Gods, Chris Jericho, and Sammy Guevara.
I told him that nickname was going to come back to haunt him.
Right? Sting and Darby Allin, and they defeated Ricky Starks, Big Bill, and the Don Callis family, Takeshita, and Powerhouse Hobbs, with Don Callis by side, of course.
Takeshita, Powerhouse Hub.
Yeah, that's what I said.
No, you didn't. You left out his first name, or Takeshita.
Most people do.
I know, you just answered. It's fine. Anyways,
Cracking my knuckles now.
This match was originally supposed to be the Golden Jets, which is Chris Jericho and Kenny Omega versus Big Bill and Rick Starks.
Yes.
For the AEW tag titles. Kenny is currently suffering through diverticulosis, and he may never come back to wrestling with how bad it was.
Yeah.
Like, he could come back, he might not. Like, it's uncertain, and that breaks my heart, as he's been my favorite wrestler ever since I got back into wrestling.
Me too.
And I don't want him to go out this way.
Yeah, no.
But then again, I would rather have this than seeing Sting being paraded as like final match, and it's probably going to be against frickin' Ric Flair at Revolution.
Oh gosh.
Because it's going to be happening in North Carolina, which Ric Flair is from.
Yep.
Like, they're setting everything up to where it could be that, and
I know.
I don't want that.
No.
What I want to see is Sting versus Darby Allin.
Yeah.
I think that would be the perfect final match. It's like a bow out for Sting, and his protege.
Exactly.
It's just like, all right, you finally bested me.
Thrown onto him.
Yeah. But anyways, this match was absolutely freaking pointless.
Yes.
The only thing I enjoyed through the entire thing was, like, Don Callis was using this inanimate metal rod, and he was about to...
Yes.
Who's he gonna... Yeah, it was Sting, right? Like, he was about to hit Sting, and then he just, like, ran out of the ring, like, all scared. That was the only thing I enjoyed out of the whole thing.
I agree. Don Callis is a national treasure, like we've said before.
Well, he's from Canada, so international treasure.
International treasure, yes, even bigger. But other than that, the match was pointless. It was nothing exciting at all. Yeah, agree. Up next, in another pointless match, we had Julia Hart defeating Abaddon by pinfall for the AEW TBS Championship.
This is spooky.
No, it's not.
I gotta hand it to Abaddon. She finally got her first pay-per-view match.
Oh, that's true.
And it was for a title.
That is true. I do like Abaddon.
But if you've watched wrestling recently, she's only been on for a couple weeks lately, despite being signed for years.
Yes.
My friend Parker, who is a phenomenal drummer and also a drum tech for a lot of different bands like Thy Artist Murder, he plays the drums on Abaddon's theme song, which I think is really cool. And,
cool.
A little shout out Parker, because he is one hell of a drummer.
Yes.
But if you've seen what's been going on with Julia Hart, and especially when you watch the media scrum, which we're going to be talking about in detail.
Oh, yes, we will.
You knew Julia Hart was not going to lose this title whatsoever.
Yeah.
And also, Abaddon doesn't talk.
Yeah.
So that kind of leaves you to not being able to hold a championship unless you have a mouthpiece for you.
Yeah.
And she doesn't have one. It could have been Thunder Rosa. Apparently, they tagged up a couple weeks ago, and then nothing happened since. Which, again, I don't understand what's going on in AEW whatsoever, but Bloomington, Minnesota's own Julia Hart maintains the title, which they had to keep reiterating that she's the youngest TBS champion.
22-year-old.
Despite the fact she's the third champion.
Yes.
There's only been 3 holders. Jade Cargill, who held it for like over 50 matches.
Yeah.
Chris Statlander held it for like a month.
Yep.
And now Julia Hart has defended it 3 times.
Yes.
That's not saying a lot.
No, not at all. It's just exhausting. It's exhausting. Like, there's no real, like, interesting storylines anywhere.
No, in the women's division, not at all.
No.
But no, and speaking of interesting storylines,
Right?
boy, does this one have a twist.
In a no DQ match for the AEW TNT Championship, Adam Copeland defeated Christabel Cage with Shayna Wayne and the Prodigy, Nick Wayne, by his side. But then some stuff happened.
Well, first of all, it was a no disqualification match
I said that.
for the TNT title.
Yes.
And there was just shenanigans aplenty throughout this entire thing. They had tables, they had ladders, they had chairs.
Oh my.
Now, Edge and Christian dealing with tables, ladders, and chairs. Where have I heard this before? I feel like Matt and Jeff Hardy might know something about this as well when it comes to TLC. Maybe the Dudley Boys as well. I would love to get their insight into where all this came from.
Maybe.
But basically, shenanigans happened, and Edge won the title.
Yes.
And it was just this nice little celebration that happened for all of a matter of seconds.
Yes.
Because
then Luchasaurus, I'm sorry, Killswitch, came out with his little contract that he had won earlier for a title shot.
See what they're doing? They're threading the stories together.
And everybody's like, oh, is he gonna hand it in? Is he gonna beat Edge and get the title himself? No. Christabel intervened and got him to hand over the title shot to him. So then Christabel went and fought Edge again and won the title right back, with Edge being the shortest running title holder in history.
For about 3 minutes.
Yes.
When you take everything into the fact of him getting the crap beaten out of him, handing in the contract.
Yes.
Christian doing a spear.
Yes.
And then his move, the kill switch.
Yes.
And it was over. Basically rendering that whole storyline that happened tonight utterly meaningless.
Meaningless, pointless. The match earlier, the kill switch one, was just pointless.
Well, almost all battle royals are once you hit a certain point.
Yeah.
Growing up is realizing that all battle royals in the Royal Rumble have about only 5 people that have an actual shot of winning the match. And one that is obviously gonna win.
Yeah.
Once you realize that, it all stops being fun.
Yeah.
But I digress.
Then up next, we had the championship final of the Continental Classic for the inaugural American Triple Crown Championship,
which includes
of the Ring of Honor World Championship, NJPW Strong Openweight Championship, and the inaugural AEW Continental Championship.
So what's the difference between the international and the console and the world
title? They're all
title?
the same thing.
They're all the same.
In which Eddie Kingston defeated Jon Moxley by pinfall.
Yes. I will say this was match of the night for me.
Yeah, I would agree.
Which again, kind of a low bar, but it was the best match of the night. My problem with it was I knew from the second Eddie Kingston was going to be involved in the Continental Classic, the G1 Climax for AEW,
yes,
that he was going to win.
Yeah.
I said it from day one.
Yeah.
And then he ended up winning the whole thing.
Yeah.
And I don't like being right when it comes to stuff like that. I want to be shocked. I want to be surprised.
Yeah.
Because if I already know what's going to happen, why am I watching?
Yeah. For me, at first, I was like, do they like him enough to actually, have him be the winner of all this? But then once I kind of got farther along and you told me your perspective and stuff, like, okay, you're probably right. I think I guessed Moxley last night just because who knew? Like, they like Moxley more than Nate, so.
Well, look at it from another perspective. Moxley's too big for Ring of Honor.
I get what you're saying, but my thought is they're trying to just shed a little bit more light there, but
no, it's just the NXT of AEW now.
Yeah.
It's just a little side thing now that doesn't really matter.
That is true.
And that's very disheartening. And then speaking of stuff that doesn't matter.
Yes, we had our final match of the night, a singles match for the AEW World Championship, in which Samoa Joe defeated MJF with Adam Cole by a technical submission.
Yeah, his sleeper hold. And funny enough, in the previous match, Eddie Kingston was also going out with a sleep hold.
Yeah.
And they did the old school lifting the arm 3 times.
Yeah.
And if you don't lift it the 3rd time, you're out. That's the way it used to be before the whole tap out situation, thanks to MMA, started coming about.
Yeah.
They did that in this match too. And I said right as they were raising MJF's arm to check, they already did this in the last match. You know what's going to happen. 1, 2, 3. And everyone was befuddled. No one understood what was going on.
Yeah.
How did Samoa Joe put MJF to sleep?
Yeah. Well, and it was weird on the third one, like his arm dropped on like his body instead of on the ground. So I think that's what confused a lot of people too, is like, did he stop it or like what happened, you know?
Well, that was far from the only botch of the night.
Well, that is true.
But wait, there's more. After all of this, over the past several months, there's been one big storyline going on that started all the way back in the summer.
Yes.
When they started doing these mixed tag team championships. And I don't mean male and female mixed.
No.
I mean that they just combined random people together to be in a tag team. Mm-hmm. You know, the WWE theory of putting a tag team division together. Just put random people together.
Yes.
And any established tag team needs to break up. Mm-hmm. And boy, does that seem to be happening. But the best friend storyline of Adam Cole and MJF.
Yes.
Better than you, baby.
Yes.
So many great vignettes and backstage stuff and them going on adventures.
Yes.
So many great things. It was the heartwarming thing of the summer.
It was, and it turned MJF into a babyface.
Yes. People actually started cheering for MJF. Mm-hmm. Originally, that was supposed to happen before Brawl Out last year. Mm-hmm. Like, they were trying to turn him into a babyface with that whole situation with the firm.
Yeah.
Wow, what a great stable that was that lasted all of nothing.
Yes.
But apparently they waited like 6 months and then tried it again so everybody would forget.
Exactly.
But, you know, stuff started happening. MJF started getting hurt and injured. Adam Cole started getting hurt and injured. Mm-hmm. And then finally, for realsies, Adam Cole broke his ankle.
Yes.
And he had been dealing with ankle surgery, and he didn't stay off of TV that long.
No.
He was in a lot of vignettes with the Kingdom and Roderick Strong.
Yes.
Which, of course...
Adam!
Yes, I was going to say, that's what Roderick Strong is basically known for now, just screaming Adam. It should be the fact that he uses kill switch engages the end of Heartache, but I digress. Mm-hmm. Anyways, during the match with Samoa Joe and Adam Cole, or MJF, Adam Cole came out, and what should have been the first sign was he wasn't wearing a Better Than You Bebe shirt. Yeah. He wasn't wearing anything that supported MJF. Mm-hmm. That should have been the first sign.
Yeah.
And when all of this shenanigans started happening over the past weeks and months, there was this devil figure that kept showing up, and these all little minions that were beating the crap out of people that were helping out MJF. Well, along with all of that, we were wondering, who's the devil?
Yes.
Could it have been MJF himself, because he calls himself the devil, and he wore that particular devil mask?
Exactly.
Could it have been the Kingdom? Could it have been Samoa Joe? Could it have been Ric Flair?
Right.
Could it have been Shane McMahon, like I joked about last night, which would have been the biggest FU in AEW history.
Yes.
But at the very end, all of the devil's underlings came out. Mm-hmm. They had a chair.
Yes.
They were holding up Adam Cole. They were holding up MJF.
Yes.
And they were both saying, "Don't just hit me, don't hit him."
Exactly.
Then it all went black.
Yes.
Then what happened?
When the lights came on, the minions were all surrounding Adam Cole, who was sitting on a chair.
Story time
With
Adam Cole.
With Adam Cole, the devil. And it was revealed that Adam Cole was the devil, and
who were those underlings?
Well, it was the Roderick, his team,
the
Kingdom, as well as Mr. Wardlow.
Yeah.
Which I kind of had been thinking, you know, ahead of time, and when we were talking and speculating who the minions were and stuff, that Wardlow could be on that side, because obviously him and MJF have such a history together. But I didn't really think he'd be part of the Kingdom and that whole faction, though. It just seems kind of oddly put together.
He's the Jake Hager of that group.
He is. Minus the hat.
Minus the hat. Well, he's minus the hat now.
Oh, yeah.
But, they went and started beating him up, and then they just kind of crouched around Adam Cole, fade to black.
Yes.
There ends what I think might be the worst AEW pay-per-view yet.
Yeah, absolutely.
As a friend of mine pointed out on my Facebook last night, it was the most 2000s WCW pay-per-view that AEW ever put out.
Yes.
Like when Hulk Hogan was running everything in WCW. And it was just the poops.
It was. Like, I had, like, even with the entire thing being terrible, I had hope at the very end, because I love MJF, and I love Adam Cole too, and I love what they had together. But then, like, that ending just was, no.
It was a wet fart.
It was. It was a dude.
And funny enough, there's more.
Yes.
Because comes the real star of the show, Tony Khan, and his media scrum.
Yes.
Now, we're not going to go over everything.
No.
But we are going to go over some key highlights.
Yes.
First of all, Samoa Joe came out, and he was very nice, very professional.
Yes.
Like he is in real life.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very good guy.
Absolutely.
And, we mentioned Twisted Metal Boar. He is the body of Sweet Tooth in Twisted Metal. Yet Bojack is the voice of Sweet Tooth.
Which is hilarious.
It's just hilarious.
Yeah.
Then who came out?
Was it Julia next? Or...
No, there was someone in between. I don't remember who now. Well, anyways, why don't we get to the Julius? You know what? Yeah. Okay, Julia was there.
Yes.
Then we had Swerve.
Yes.
Statlander.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, and then that was pretty much it.
Yeah, that was
But the real talking points started happening after all this. Although a couple times it was hinted at, especially during Julia Hart's little press conference.
Oh, and Garcia.
And Garcia, yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Biggest thing.
Yes.
Asked no less than 4 times about what can you tell us about the Chris Jericho situation, which we talked about in the beginning of this very show.
Yes.
And he just kept saying, we have the safest company in professional wrestling.
Yes.
If anyone has a problem, they can come to me.
Yes.
And people were just like flat out, did anyone know about this? Did anyone ask him about this? Mm-hmm. And he just gave the same Donald Trump answer every single time.
Oh.
And that wasn't even it for all of the bull crap that happened.
No.
Like, there's been a lot of injuries in AEW.
Yeah.
And particularly in the women's division, even though there's probably more in the men's, but there's so little women in the women's division, it seems like it's bigger.
Yeah.
But all he did was keep praising Julia Hart being a 22-year-old champion. Like, every other question had to do with, isn't it so great that Julia Hart is the TBS champion? She's only 22 years old. She's the youngest person to hold this title.
Oh, goodness. Yeah. Like, that was one of his diverting tactics. He also talked about people who were leaving the organization, but conveniently left out Miss Matt until, like, the very end. He snuck her in just as an afterthought.
And didn't even mention Sean Spears, who left.
No. I didn't even know he left.
Well, he wrote a thing on like Twitter or something like that he was done.
Yeah.
He's probably gonna be on Raw tomorrow night.
Oh, goodness. Maybe.
Well, where else is he gonna go?
Nowhere.
Yeah. And people kept asking because there's like a lot of things like MJF has been hinting this for a long time that he might be leaving AEW in 2024.
I don't.
Of course, there's rumors that he's already been signed and he's on there for several years.
But of course, Tony Khan couldn't talk to it.
And then completely changed the subject.
Yes.
And all he did was change the subject on almost everything.
Yeah.
And it's like wasn't it so great the Von Erich family came out and I was able to play Stranglehold by Ted Nugent for Kevin Von Erich. And it's like there's been so many great people that are leaving us now after 5 years, except for Sean Spears. He promised us the Iconics, but wait, did I call them the Iconics? I wasn't supposed to do that. Anyways, MJF was a great champion, and I don't know what the future holds for him, but we're going to be entering a new era of AEW. And anyways, we're looking forward to our next pay-per-view, which this is going to be Sting's retirement match. We're really building that up to be his final match. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
And of course, during a lot of this, Toni Storm had been out there earlier.
Oh yeah, Toni Storm.
She had put her like hat and glasses on Tony Khan, and he's like awkwardly wearing this because he doesn't know how to act around other people.
Him talking about sexual harassment while wearing a giant afro and shades.
Oh. Oh.
Like, I thought Brawl Out was bad. The CM Punk stuff that he did.
Yeah.
Except giving all that promotion to Martha's Muffins.
Yes.
This couldn't have been in worse taste.
I know.
And the other thing that goes along with that, when he wasn't avoiding the questions, anytime it was like something like, what would your 14-year-old self think of you now? Oh, that was a great question. Thank you for that question. That was a great question.
I'm so happy we can answer questions like that in this place.
I'm so happy we live in a country where you can ask questions like that.
Like, I get from a business perspective, if there's like active ER investigations, stuff like that, you can't talk about them. But at the same time, their lines have always been kind of blurred with HR. Let's look back at Brawl Out, So when you're in a public eye kind of a company, like there's things that you need to put out there. Otherwise, people are going to be left with these bad impressions of, though. It feels like they don't have anybody working in PR for them.
Well, there is no PR, there's no HR, there's nothing.
There's nothing.
I feel like it's just Tony Khan. Well, I mean, he had to hire people within the company to decide what to do with CM Punk.
Yeah.
He didn't even know if he should fire him or not.
I know.
After almost getting choked and beaten meeting. He didn't know if he should fire him or not.
Well, and I do know that sometimes in businesses you have to hire outside HR people to get like more of an unbiased perspective with certain situations and stuff like that, blah, 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 blah. But there's certain things that you should just know.
And that's one of them. I do find it funny that Bryan Danielson is the one in charge of this whole clientele thing. And now, was he waiting backstage for Chris Jericho?
We're gonna have a talk here, boy.
I have an NDA right here for you, and you're gonna be let go.
Yes, yes.
But where are we at with AEW now? Think about where we were when we watched that New Year's Eve, New Year's Day, being the Elite.
Yes.
Where at the very end, you see the Elite, the whole Elite.
Yes.
Hangman, Cody, Kenny, and the Bucks standing in a circle.
Yeah.
They're holding their phones.
Yeah.
And on all of their phones, it says double or nothing.
Yes.
Except for Hangman says, I don't have that. I got something different.
Yeah.
And he flips it, and it says AEW.
Yes.
Which was one of the greatest moments of our wrestling watching career.
It was so exciting.
Now, 5 years later, where are we at?
Coming off the most disappointing pay-per-view we've ever watched from AEW.
Yeah, from WWE is a whole other level.
Another can of worms.
Yes.
But,
are we going to watch any more? Are we going to watch Sting's retirement match? Are we just trading in the cable? What are we doing?
So part of me, I do love me Sting. Part of me would love to see him through his final match. That's only a few months away, you know? Part of me is going that way. But outside of that, there's nothing really there anymore, you know? I love MJF. I love Don Callis. I love Kenny and the Bucks, but they're not there. So unless things change in those few months, I say snip snip as soon as that's done.
And where was Hangman?
Well, right. Hangman too, yeah.
They can't even call him the Hung Bucks anymore, which is just
bad.
Yeah. If you're a wrestling fan and you actually managed to put up with our bantering and ranting about this pay-per-view,
yes.
What did you think of World's End? Did you like it more than we did? Did you hate it more than we did? Did we have some legitimate criticisms? Are we just whining for the sake of whining? Again, let us know in the comments down below. Alright, so just to wrap things up here for the end of 2023, we're just putting all of this together. The stuff we've either been enjoying lately or stuff that's about to happen, whatever the case is. You know, just to wrap things up for the end of 2023, maybe into 2024. Metal Faerie, what do you have for us?
So on the music side, I just came across this on Spotify this morning. I haven't had a chance to listen to it or look into it further, but I saw a single listed from Charon, which I'm very, very excited about.
What is with all the Finnish bands coming back out of nowhere?
I don't know. So unless it's something I'm not aware of, or we'll see.
Well, be careful about that, because all the time I get things like new release from Nightingale, and it turns out to be like this instrumental trip hop thing.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Someone could have taken the name.
That
so just
true.
be careful.
So we'll get back to you next week if it's an actual single and if it's good. On the gaming side, though, I've just been really playing a lot on my phone, a lot on my dating apps. Love Island had put out their final season this week, but I still have to play it, so I'll come back next week and let you all know how that went.
Once again, you called it dating apps, not dating
simulators. That's what you call it, so it's funny at this point.
Proceed.
Love you.
Do ya?
I've also been playing a lot of Romance Club. They have another free period right now where you don't have to pay for anything with gems. It's all free.
And then they screw you when you do need them.
No,
I'm sure.
No. And then I've tried Couple Up in the past, but I didn't like the first season, but they have a couple other seasons out now, so I downloaded that again. I'm trying the third season, seeing how that is. So we'll see how that goes. How about you?
Well, I finished up Assassin's Creed Mirage,
Ooh, yes.
which is a nice little side game. Kind of takes you back to the original games of Assassin's Creed, where you're actually an assassin.
Yeah.
No less. Takes place in Iran, Baghdad, most specifically. And yeah, it's just a really fun little side game.
Yeah.
It can take a while if you do everything, but otherwise it's a pretty quick story, really reminiscent of the old games, but still has some new game stuff behind it. It's a nice little balance, and tides you over until the next games, whatever they may be.
Yeah.
And I'm a little scared of what they are, because I know like one might be this giant live service game. There's gonna be a mobile phone game that's going on. There's one in particular I think you'll enjoy called Assassin's Creed Hex.
Okay.
Which deals with the Salem witch trials and stuff like that. So
yes, please.
yeah, that'd be right up your alley.
Yes.
I know there's one that's going to take place in the samurai era of Japan, which is apparently one that they've been wanting to do for a long time. Lots of stuff with that.
Yeah.
But I also recently started playing Star Wars Jedi Survivor.
Yes.
The first one I played because it was free on PlayStation, one of the free games that they had, Jedi Fallen Order.
Yes.
If you're not familiar, if you know of games like Dark Souls, Bloodborne, Sekiro, and of course the big one of all of them, Elden Ring, because George R. R. Martin wrote the story for it, or at least part of it. They're ridiculously hard games with a lot of hard boss battles and a lot of puzzle solving and this kind of Metroidvania in a 3D world. That's what this game is, but Star Wars themed and a difficulty setting.
Yes.
So you can play in story mode and be able to get through the story as quick as possible if you want to. I like a little bit of a challenge, so I keep it on normal whenever possible. I would never dare put it on the hardest because I don't need to accidentally throw my controller at the TV screen and break it because I love the TV and I don't want to destroy anything.
No.
But it's a really fun game. A lot of cute little animals and robots and droids and all the kinds of stuff that goes on in there.
Yes, your
really
droid
fun.
is adorable.
Yes. It looks amazing. There's some screen tearing I've noticed and a couple bugs and glitches still going on. I played it so much later than when all the original problems apparently happened.
Yeah.
Where it would like actually crash the game. I haven't dealt with that yet.
Yeah.
And we waited till it was actually on sale.
Yes.
Like the best sale, which is funny because it was going for like $40 on Black Friday.
Yeah.
And then for the Christmas sale, it's going for $35.
Yeah.
So why not just go for it then?
Exactly.
Yeah, like what are you doing?
Yeah.
But I'm playing that. I don't know how far along I am in it, but I am enjoying that right now, and hopefully all that stuff can tide me over until the end of January when Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth comes out, which, as I've said a few times on the show, the creators of the game said that if you try to play this in one long sitting, you will die.
Yeah.
So it's a big, long game.
Which is amazing.
It all takes place in Hawaii instead of Japan.
Oh, that'll be cool.
And it's all going to be in English as well. So that, like the first Like a Dragon game, or Yakuza Like a Dragon, that was all in English as well. So, you know, for someone like me that can't speak Japanese worth a lick, I'll be able to appreciate it just a little bit more instead of just reading subtitles and hearing the Japanese language. But that's the next one I'm looking forward to.
Yeah.
Otherwise, other stuff in 2024, I don't even keep up with when music is coming out.
Yeah.
At this stage of my life, when I get the promos, I'll know it's out.
Yes.
And when I see it elsewhere and I didn't get the promos, that means it's out.
Yes.
So,
yes.
And then I just deal with it then.
Exactly.
Movies, there's only one real movie I'm looking forward to this year that I'm aware of.
Yeah.
And that's Deadpool 3.
Okay. Yeah.
The only Marvel movie coming out in 2024.
Yeah.
Which makes me excited, and I really, really hope it's good.
I know. Me too.
It's supposed to be rated R.
I hope it's good.
I hope it's good. I just hope it's not going to be Disney-ified, and it's rated. It's supposed to be rated R. Make it like the other Deadpool movies.
Yes.
That's all I ask.
Exactly.
TV, Curb Your Enthusiasm, their final season, the 12th season, is going to be coming up in February.
Exactly.
We might start our side podcast after that. Don't really have a name for that yet, but I just think it'd be such a fun idea to talk about. Was Larry in the right or the wrong, in our opinion, more throughout the entire series?
Yes.
I think that would just be a fun little side thing for us to do. We might do some other side stuff. We're going to be changing things up on the podcast as well, like an actual intro, an outro, maybe established names for things, maybe some other noises, bells and buzzers and other stuff like that to make it sound like a legitimate show.
Yeah.
But what about you? Is there anything that you're looking forward to in 2024?
I mean, we're 25 shows in now. We can legally rent a car, and
that's right.
You know, let's rent that car and see where it takes us.
License to drive. Well, I think that's it then. Thank you so very much for tuning in to episode 25 of the Heavy Debriefings podcast. It's been an amazing time over the past 25 weeks to be able to do this show with you. I'm so happy that people are still digging the show, that we're still enjoying it. We haven't broken up over it yet.
Not yet.
Maybe with Accountability 101, that might change.
Putting on us on the rocks.
But hey, I'm going easy on you next week. It's only 2 albums.
That is true.
It's not like I'm going to tell you to check out Zappa in a week, and he has over 100 albums, so...
Yeah, that's not happening.
Yeah, I know it's not. I'm realistic.
Yes.
But if you have any ideas for the show that you would like to see, good comments, bad comments, anything in between, let us know in the comments. And, of course, follow us on social media. Of course, first of all, you have your own Facebook page.
Yes, the Metal Faerie.
Which is spelled...
Faerie.
Yes, the Metal Faerie.
Yes.
The traditional Grimm's fairy tale version of fairy.
And you can find me through the Heavy Debriefings page, too. He has me linked on some of his posts.
Yeah, I try to do that, and it's actually worked. People have been checking it out, and
Exactly.
The only thing I would say is continue to post.
Yes, I haven't posted in a little bit this week with everything going on, but I will get better with that.
And do more engagement stuff.
Yes.
You know, where you're asking questions and stuff like
Yes.
that. So,
Yeah.
want people to check you out more.
Exactly.
But of course, also check out Heavy Debriefings on all your favorite social media sites: Facebook, Instagram, Threads, YouTube, Blue Sky, which apparently no one checks out.
Yeah, nobody.
And of course, heavydebriefings.weebly.com for all of your heavy debriefing needs.
And I know it's New Year's Eve today, so if you're listening to this today or tomorrow, I know New Year's and going into a new year can be a hard time for a lot of people, either because of stuff going on in their current life, their past, or just the pressure of going into a new year and setting expectations for themselves. Just take everything one day at a time. You're not alone out there. There's a lot of us out there who are also going through stuff, and we're all one big group of family in this Heavy Debriefings world, and we care about you, and we care about you as a listener, and just keep going one day at a time.
And also, if you are like me and you feel like you're fraying so much and you're completely at the end of your rope,
Yes.
for every episode of the Heavy Debriefings podcast, I have the suicide hotline
Yes.
information, because I know what it is to struggle with suicidal thoughts. And
Exactly.
I've dealt with 9 attempts in my life. And like I mentioned in the beginning of the show, on my personal Facebook, I went into great detail about the 5th and scariest attempt at my life.
Yeah.
So I definitely know how hard it is, especially 10 years ago today when that attempt happened. So
Yes.
if you feel like you have no one to reach out to, no friends, no family, you don't want to do it on social media like I do, I left the information for mental health and suicide awareness hotline stuff in the info down below of every single episode. So
Yes.
please, if you are thinking of going that way, just give them a shot first.
Yes.
And I really hope that can help change things.
Exactly.
And for the end of 2023, for the end of the Heavy Debriefings podcast for 2023, and for the Metal Faerie, this is Josh Runquist saying see ya in 2024.